50 years of marriage, and they still like each other. Join us today as our guests share their story, and we can glean from their wisdom to learn maybe what the secret to marriage is. Hey guys, welcome back to the Shieldmaidens podcast. This is the place where we hope you'll come to be raised up to be a warrior for Christ while also learning how to fight back against the enemy. And the whole time, we really just want to point you to Jesus. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Riley.
Thanks for being here today to listen into another episode. We get to talk about marriage today from a couple who's had some experience, and we're really excited. A few years, yeah. I thought you said 2 years at first. I'm like, no, like more than that. But we're really excited about it. So we'll introduce you to our guests here in just a moment. Before we do that, we'd like to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe. Again, words are hard. This happens every time the camera turns on. We'd love for you to subscribe there. It really helps us out. If you're listening on the audio only versions, here I go again. We'd love a review there. And if you're looking for merch, t-shirts, stickers, jewelry, awesome hand-painted Bibles, you can check out our Shopify site, which will be linked in the description if you do want to look at that.
That's right.
Okay.
Who's here with us?
We have a really fun couple that
so fun.
I met Cindy before, but I just got to meet Tom today, and I'm excited you guys are here. So thank you. We have Cindy and Tom Scholl. Scholl, not with an S, correct? Scholl.
Well, there's an S. It's just at the beginning, not the S.
Yes, not a second S. Not like Scholl's. That's what I was trying to clarify. It wasn't Scholl's. But thank you guys for coming today, talking with us. Do you want to share how this conversation came about?
Well, I've known Cindy for a little while. She approached me when we started this podcast and let us know that she was praying for us and loved what we were doing, which was super flattering because you were literally the first person who approached me that I didn't know and was like, oh my goodness, I love it. So I was super thankful. And then it was just like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, she approached me again. She's like, the Lord told me it's time for me to come on your podcast. I said, yes, ma'am. Let's schedule it.
All right.
I'm so excited.
Yes,
because
I am too.
Cindy is awesome.
Yes.
Tom, I'm sure you're great too, but I know
you seem great. So. Yes.
I try.
You try. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you guys for coming. If you want to introduce yourselves any other way, like about your family or anything like that, what you do, or what you have done. Yeah, you can start there.
We're Tom and Cindy, and we were married in 1976, and that is almost 50 years ago. We have 2 sons, and we have a bonus daughter and her family that we have adopted from the hills. And we have 7 grandchildren, 6 boys, and 1 girl.
It's a lot of boys.
And we live in Evansville, Indiana.
Love that. Perfect. Now, are you both retired? I saw hesitation there.
Sometimes.
No. Yeah. Still working.
I'm still working full time, but it's kind of an intermittent job, or career. So I have a lot of free time. And certain times of the year, I'm too busy.
I understand that. Yeah. Okay, good.
And I still sub because I like to work.
You were a teacher.
Yes. I work in a preschool.
Yes.
I work with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and I love it.
Which are so fun. That's one of my most favorite ages. I love that. Okay.
That's precious.
Well, thank you guys for coming and taking time out of your day to talk with us and being obedient. If the Lord told you to talk with us, then we want it.
I think I want to start with when I was in junior high, and you can tell how long ago because we haven't called it that for a long time, but in middle school, I began to pray for my husband. I had friends that I walked to the bus stop with, and they both had boyfriends, and they eventually married them, and I was just very lonely, and I wanted my person, and I began to pray for him. And little did I know how that would work. And I didn't date. I went on 2 blind dates because someone asked me to go with someone else, and until I went to college.
Wow.
And Mr. Tom came to college at 2nd semester, and I remember the day I saw him first time. I can tell you what he had on. He had an afro, It was curly. It was
You
long.
had
You did.
Oh,
I wish we may have
need
to
a
get a
picture.
picture from you to like flash up, have AJ insert it and flash it on the screen.
You know what? I have one.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
Love it.
and so that's how we began, and we only we started talking. It was mid semester, maybe even really towards the end, and in a very short time, we were changed into a different evangelism group, and we started talking, and it happened very quickly. The Lord made it very apparent that we were to be together, and it was like in 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that's very quickly.
Did he make it clear to both of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost simultaneously.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was the night before exams, and we were some things had happened, and we need to have a discussion, and we did. And when at the end of school, a lot of kids take kids home to see different areas and stuff. And I lived really close to Lake Michigan, and I invited him to come, and he said, "Wait a minute, that's just too fast." And anyway, and so these words came out of my mouth, and I truly did not say them. And I said, "I'll wait forever for you if I have to." Oh. And at that moment, we knew that was given from the Holy Spirit, and that's how it began almost 50 years ago. And that was in May. I went to camp for the summer, and I saw him every other weekend. And we got engaged in September and got married the following year.
May.
Wow.
Because you said in May it'll be 50. Yeah. 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how it started.
Okay.
And it's been, 50 years of married bliss since then, right?
I don't think so.
Absolute bliss all the way.
That's a good answer. See, that's a good answer. Yeah.
Intermittent bliss.
Yes.
Might be more accurate.
Yes.
So why don't you tell them about the mission conference that you participated before our marriage?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. I was not looking for a girlfriend or a wife when I went to college. I had actually come out of the hippie movement and became a Christian, and in a kind of a radical way. And I ended up at Bible college 4 months after being in a communal environment.
Wow.
And so I had sown my oats, and I was ready to get serious, especially with God, because without him, I probably wouldn't be here. I'm sure I wouldn't be here. And so when I went to college, I was unaware that there were even girls on campus. I was so focused, and I needed to know who God was so I could share with others the freedom that I had experienced myself. And she had a heart and passion, I learned, for the Lord, to serve the Lord. And I thought, and then our lives began to converge. And at a point one night, we were standing out on the field under the sun, under the stars, and all we could say was, I know we're supposed to be married. It was weird. It was kind of silly almost, really, but that's all. And so God convinced us of that.
That's beautiful.
So I had proposed, but the Lord had really moved on me in a missions conference that to go out to California and work with a prison mission association. And because I hadn't gone to prison, but I sure could have and should have for any number of reasons. And so I wanted to share Christ with prisoners, and it was compelling. I could not say no, and so I told Cindy I was going to go out there, and she started freaking out because we were going to get married, and I said, I have to go. I have to be obedient to the Lord.
So that was 2 months before we were going to get married.
Ooh. Okay.
And I was working on the wedding dress. I made my wedding dress, and it was like, how does this compute? So at that should have given me a clue as what kind of life I was going to have with Tom Scholl.
Yeah. Here's your first little taste of it. I'm sorry.
You know what? He did go to the conference, and we did get married, and we moved to Southern California 10 days after we were married.
Oh,
We
wow.
packed up our little the little pickup truck,
yeah.
but we had married student housing. And so we moved in there and then packed a truck and left for California and spent the summer there.
Wow.
And came home to start school again in August.
Okay.
That was one of our
You
adventures.
jumped right
in. And
Wow.
he loved his job and I hated it
Mm.
because I worked in an office and I'm not an office person. I don't like to sit. But you know what? God was faithful and we did what we were called to do. And then we had other experiences.
Share some of those.
So we've had a number of experiences where the Lord really interrupted and said, well, sent us on assignment essentially that did not look sane to anybody, in fact, even to us. But there's a proverb that talks about there's a question of a faithful man who can find. And when I first became a Christian, I thought, Lord, I want to be faithful to you. And above all things, well, I've had an intermittent faithfulness, and as we all do, and so I carried that into our relationship, not just with God vertically, but with her horizontally. And so we committed to Christ for our lives, and we committed to one another for our lives.
So after graduation, I was pregnant. The baby was going to be born in October, and he came in September. But we moved home, moved to my hometown. And little did I know that what God had for me there. We had been there just about 8 months. Yeah, 8 months. And I realized that my mother had been abused by my father with bipolar. And I did a family intervention, put her in hiding, and then confronted my dad. And so anyway, that worked out well for them. They went through the process, and we got a chance to leave after, an internship that didn't go well, but that was why we went, was for my family. And then we took a position in another state, and I got the heck out of Dodge. I didn't deal with it. I just moved on. I wanted something better for our life and for our marriage. And, you know, you can deal with stuff up front or you can deal with it later. And my coping mechanisms were really crooked at that point. And so we moved to another state. And you'll find out in our story, we've lived several places and we've moved 16 times.
Wow.
And when I look back, you know, God has been faithful and he's done things every place we've lived, every house we've lived in. But we lived there for 2 years, and then we went into real ministry because that's what we were going to do, ministry.
Yeah, full-time professional ministry.
Yes. We got a parsonage, and we got to, use up all the things that we got for our wedding that were in storage. We really got to live. And that was in central Wisconsin. And
Okay.
so...
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we're like halfway down the list. But when I think about moving, anytime you put your stuff in a box and you move it someplace, it's a move.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
our first move was the married student's apartment. I worked, he went to school. Then we got invited to be the dorm supervisor. He would put me to bed at 8 o'clock because I went to work at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we lived there. And then we moved into a house sitting job. And then we had to put our stuff in storage. And then we bought our first house for
$10,000.
$10,000
Wow.
Right.
in
Oh.
1979.
It was not a mansion, I'll assure you.
Wow.
that.
But still, even to
True. And our carpet was 3 weeks old when we moved out because, it was like we worked on it the whole time. We owned it for a year. Yeah. So anyway, so that, again, there we go. In our little town, we loved our little town. It was called Friendship, Wisconsin.
Friendship. Oh,
And-
sweet. I know.
It was. And we really got to be who we were, but it was really funny because let's back up just a little bit. Tom told you a little bit about his conversion, and he had a radical supernatural experience. He went to college, and they systematically extracted the supernatural out of him.
it. Because I'm gathering you went to Bible college,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
And they extracted the supernatural out of
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And so there,
Because of their
Yes.
theology.
Just the
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
and see, you don't know stuff until you know it. And then
Mm-hmm.
Tom has always been a little unsettled. And we realized when we left our little church in Wisconsin, we had an opportunity to be a part of a church planting ministry in Southern California. So we returned to Southern California. And Tom had been looking for the nuggets of supernatural. We couldn't have said that. We realized when we got out there, it was like, okay, there is more. There is more. There's more. Well, the church plant didn't work. We were out there just a very short time. And Tom said, there's not room for me.
No.
And I'm thinking, we moved all the way across the country. So I used to be a works person. I dug my heels in and doggone it, we were going to work this. And after some time, I looked at him and said, I'm so sorry. There is no place for us here. And so he immediately resigned. And it wasn't like it was. Anyway, we resigned, all right. And then the Lord began to really deal with us with supernatural. And I think my heart supernaturally, because I was fearful. You know, like, don't rock the boat. And because of my previous trauma, don't rock the boat, Tom. He was always rocking the boat.
Yeah. We weren't, I can't say that we characterized it that we were pursuing the supernatural. What it really boiled down to is we had learned in a theological system that there's the Father, Son, and the Holy Bible. And so we wanted to know who this triune God is. And so we were pursuing the Holy Spirit, albeit conservatively. We weren't ready to jump off the bridge, into unknown waters. And so, we went to Calvary Chapel and examined that because my background in the hippie movement is so similar to so many of them. And we had great ministry in and with Calvary Chapel churches out there. And so it's really interesting that we didn't really come to a full experiential knowledge of the Holy Spirit until we moved back here. And I dreaded moving back here from California because I thought we were leaving the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You
you're
can be
from this
back there,
area. Okay. You're from this area. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so as we were opened ourselves up theologically to the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives and recognizing how he had been involved from the beginning and in both of our relationships with the Lord, he stretched our faith quite a bit even more. And more moves and more ministry opportunities and just enriched our lives. But as you know, when you're really on the front lines with the Lord, Satan doesn't appreciate that. And so you encounter
He does not.
the trials and tribulations that are talked about in the scriptures. And so we've gone through floods and fires as a couple, individually, and then also as a couple in just about every which way you can imagine. And so the Lord has been faithful even at times when I wasn't as faithful as I wanted to be or even felt like I could be.
So let's go back to California. In 1988, April 1st, and you're going to think this is a joke, and it's not, Tom fell off a roof. And he came home in the afternoon early, and he had a cast on his leg, and his painting partner and I said, what's going on here? Well, he had fallen off a roof. They had taken him to the emergency, and he had 5 metatarsals bones in his toes that were, or his
Actually, there was
foot,
12 bones were broken. Eventually, we discovered, but she thought it was a joke at first. Laughed,
Because it was April Fool's Day.
It was April, yeah.
It wasn't any joke. But
was no
anyway,
joke.
he was off work for a while because you have to have metatarsals to walk.
Yes.
And at the time, we were in Southern California. Our rent was $750 a month. And it was just a really interesting time to be trusting God for finances. I was a stay-at-home mom. I did take sewing into my home. And then he recovered from that. And then we downsized because we downsized. And then
well, then another career change came about as a result of that. And I was trained in optics at that point and became an optician, a nationally certified optician, which I really loved. And I could walk to work because we were just that close. God provided something that was 2 blocks away.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Convenient.
we sold the
Yeah.
second vehicle because we didn't need it. And then one morning I got a call. They had expanded offices, and he usually went to one office to go to the second office. And they said, Cindy, Tom's been in an accident. I need you to meet. He's at the USD Trauma Center. And so I remember I had gone to the office, I guess, and his boss told me. And he said, do you want me to drive you? And I said, no, I'll be fine. And I remember getting in the car and saying, God, I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't know what, but I know that you have us. And drove myself down there, 6 lanes of traffic in Southern California. It was great. But walked in, and he was in a collar, and God walked us through that. I stayed there until late that night and realized it wasn't as bad as what we had thought. And then, so the next, he was in the bedroom for 2 weeks. Other than going to the restroom, he was in with a headache that was beyond belief. And the next bit was just really, really hard. Soft tissue damage is not always shown on the X-ray, and it was a rough go. And the first accident was trying and frustrating, and Tom talks about he didn't always handle, and sometimes you're in survival and you don't handle things well. And we were there again, and I can remember we had little boys that were in sports, and we had friends that took kids to games, and we were really dependent, and the Lord took care of us in ways that, we've had food delivered to our homes. We had a car delivered when we needed to purchase another car. I mean,
like all the daily things that like are in your life when you have a family. And
so anyway, we went through the first accident was a workman's comp accident. It took 5 years to settle, the longest at that point in California history.
Oh my.
That's
And
what you want to be.
yeah.
That record.
And then we also were in the second case. We had to hire a private injury lawyer because a lady had run a red light and she didn't even see the light. And so anyway, we ended up our last 3 days in Southern California in court. Just really grueling. But the first accident gave us a settlement that we knew we could come back. And so we made plans and got tickets for the Amtrak, and our 2 little boys with 4 duffel bags and a suitcase of food, and we were going to come back by Amtrak. And then the second court case, then we were in court, and then we got on the train the next day.
I wasn't able to drive at that point. The 5 days of driving, coming back.
Wow.
Still,
Yeah.
blinding, headaches, and all kinds of soft tissue damage in the spine, and the neck and the spine.
And he wanted to fly, and I said, absolutely not. Too much had happened in California. We were there for 7 years, and we literally were stuck there. For one thing, we had to stay because of the court case, but also our finances tanked, and we didn't want to ask for help.
You don't survive well on $222 a week for workman's comp when your rent is $750 and going up.
Yeah.
So,
But
God was faithful.
He was, and then we took
Absolutely
a
faithful.
we took, got this little house, and it was quite a bit less. And so we were able to conserve there. And I remember we went to look at it, and the apartment that we looked at was really cute. It was all decorated. And then we got a call from one of the renters and said, well, we're going to move into the one that you looked at. You can have ours. And it wasn't decorated.
Oh.
No.
And so we moved in, and it was pretty rugged. And we had...
It was an apartment.
Yeah,
A triplex.
we had put most of our stuff in storage, and we just knew we could have, just a little bit of furniture. And I remember we moved in, and I said, Tom, I want to paint. And he said, we're not going to be here that long. Well, we were there for a year, and I said, we have been here long enough, and then you're going to paint my apartment. And so we did. We had it all white, and I made it into a little dollhouse, and it was perfect. But
And that was back here?
no,
that
that
was
was
still
still in California.
You're still in California.
Yeah, we haven't
Okay.
gotten on the train yet.
Oh,
Diego,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And then it was on the what side of town? East side of town, and it wasn't all that excellent.
There was an automotive repair shop, which was really a chop shop. They were stealing vehicles, take them there and cut them in pieces and sell them out of there. And then we also had a Harley dealership across the street, and that a rugged one, not
Yes.
like what you
Yes.
see nowadays. But so one morning we came out. It was Easter Sunday morning. We were dressed. It was like a Norman Rockwell picture. We came out in our Sunday best, little kids. They're all dressed in Sunday best, and there was thousands of motorcyclists surrounding our place because there was a Tijuana toy run. And all these bikers, many of them were just very conservative bikers, but there were gangs also that rode down there. They would go down and get drugs and bring them back. Well, the others would they would all take toys down there. And so it was like time stopped as we watched them in slow motion as we walked to our car. And they were just as respectful as could be. But it was hilarious, the juxtaposition of us to that,
I bet.
And so we had those kinds of experience, and it's just been fabulous.
When God provides, sometimes you just have to override your brain.
natural. I was going to say, do you have any like specific stories? Especially finances are such a hard area
Yeah.
to trust God in sometimes.
Exactly. Well, that little dumpy place, they sold it, and we had to move out, and we were all upset. And our two neighbors in that triplex were believers, and so we had wonderful fellowship. We shared the same backyard. We had meals together. So God did some really neat
That's
things.
amazing.
But anyway, we moved back into our old neighborhood. We never took our kids out of school. I just traveled across the city, and
Into two duplexes.
so we moved with our
so
neighbors.
with
It was
our
the
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
God was so good. Anyway, so we lived there for 2 years, and then that's when the settlement started coming, and then we planned to move home, and everybody was really shocked. And it's like, we want to go home.
Mom and Dad were taking care of my grandparents that were in their 90s, and so we wanted to help them. And gangs were moving into San Diego out of Los Angeles, and it was getting rougher and more risky. And our two little blonde, tow-haired kids in a school so they were the minority, and it was getting a little rough for everybody. And we just needed to move.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we did on a Friday. We went to the train station with our duffel bags and our suitcase with crackers and that kind of stuff. And we headed for the Midwest. And we got on in San Diego. We went to LA, and then we were on for 24 hours.
Oof. Yeah.
36 hours. 36 hours.
Wow.
We didn't have a berth because we didn't plan ahead of time, and you have to pay a lot of extra for that. And then we were off for 48, rented a car, went to the ocean, got back on, and then came into Centralia, Illinois. And then we took a bus to Evansville. I wanted to give our 13-year-old and our 8-year-old an experience of traveling across country.
You definitely
You
did.
did, yes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
He wanted to fly, and I said, no, we had to process. I had to process. So that was in 2000, no,
80s.
93.
93.
1993. And it was the year that Halloween got 10 inches of snow. Do you remember that?
Oh,
That was our,
no, I would have been 10,
yeah, that was our first. Anyway,
but I don't remember that.
We emptied our vehicle, the truck, on the hottest day of the year, and then in October on Halloween it was 10 inches of snow, and it was just
Welcome to the Midwest.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Welcome to the
yeah.
Midwest.
So we ended up purchasing a house, lived with mom and dad until that was finished, and happened to be on Firstal Road in Newburgh, and that's just been there a while. It's part of our story. Moved into this little house and lived there. And I remember we'd only been there a couple months, and Tom was working evenings. In this knock on the door, and I went to answer. No one knew us because we were new. And there was this little scary man.
Looked like the Grim Reaper had showed up on our front porch.
And he said, "Do you want my eggs?"
No, thank you.
I said, "No, thank you." Well, I started talking to the neighbors, and it was Mr. Firstal. And Mr. Firstal lived down the road. His family had lived there. And anyway, Mr. Firstal had a story, and the Lord had us engage with Mr. Firstal. And we started helping him deliver his eggs. And he'd had a stroke, had several strokes, and
On top of polio.
on top of polio.
So when he showed up on our doorstep, he was in a black trench coat, had a baseball cap, grizzly-looking face, had this shrunken arm and all that. And he goes, "Want eggs?" And I turned to Cindy. I said, "Cindy, the Grim Reaper's here."
Whoops.
But
Fast
we
forward.
love John Firstal.
Fast forward, he would call, and I can be compassionate, and I'd listen, and anyway, and then sometimes I'd hand the phone to one of the kids, and they go, and I'd say, "It's your turn to talk," and then it was pitiful. I mean, he just really was pitiful, and his father was a pyromaniac, and so he bought a house and had it moved to the property, and just kind of a sad story.
Yeah.
They had animals, but with his continued strokes, he had to sell everything, and he really lived on his eggs and probably Social Security. Well,
And he delivered eggs on a tractor with one headlight and one arm
I like it.
in the dark.
It's like
at
something you
night,
couldn't make up.
no, you can't. No. And
Let me share one thing. It just kind of dawned on me. The reality is when you give yourself to the Lord and you say, "I want to serve you and I want to serve people," it doesn't matter if you choose to go on a mission or, a mission or whatever. Sometimes he brings the mission to you.
Mm-hmm.
And John Firstal was a mission that we didn't have to leave home for, other than, to escort him on his egg runs and all that. And that was, oh my, that was amazing.
yeah, and when you say yes, I remember going out. Tom had begun to help him deliver eggs because we didn't want him driving at night.
Yes.
And so my little minivan became the chicken poop van because his feet were full of chicken poop. And anyway, and so you give it back to God and you vacuum and try to have a good spirit. Anyway, so we moved to, we left that house and then we moved to a condo. And there was one morning I was getting ready to go to work, and I get a call from Mr. Firstal, and I'm not really proud of exactly what I did, but I'll tell you, because you know what, we have opportunities and then we have second opportunities. But John called, and I didn't live in this neighborhood anymore. And he said, "Cindy, can I ask you a favor?" I looked at the phone and I wished I was joyous and I wanted to answer that request, and I didn't. And so the Lord said, "Say yes." "Yes, John." What happened was I took him to the doctor, and I took full responsibility for cataract surgery for this little urgent. They told me it would be 2 weeks of drops. They lied. And I got home, and we lived in a little condo. I remember being in the kitchen, realizing what I had just done is I had taken medical responsibility for this little dirty urchin. And I fell down the counter and I began to weep, going, "God, I can't do this. Send me." And two people came to mind. a good friend of mine that just had a little girl. She was 2, and a walking partner that I had met in my new neighborhood. And he said, just call them. And so I called them, and I did tell them, the Lord brought you to mind. And so my one friend said, if God told you, I can't tell you no. And the other one said yes. And for the next 4 months, I organized drops in this man's eyes for 4 times a day.
Wow.
And then
For 4 months.
4 months. 4 months. And going to his property at night was the scariest thing I've ever had to do, because I'm sure there were demons there. Well, I mean,
If they weren't, they should have been, because the place was falling
defiled.
down.
Yeah.
It was very defiled. He had one light bulb hanging from the ceiling.
Wow.
In 2
No
rooms.
indoor plumbing in Newburgh
Oh.
He would draw
in
his
1999.
draw his water out of a well, and so he's pulling it up with one arm, scudding along the sides with moss and crickets getting into the water, and that's what he was drinking.
But the end of the story is what it's all about, is that we could see he was declining, and I had people that I had told the story about, and we had gotten to church, and I said, I just feel like I need to go see Mr. Firstel, and they prayed with us. And anyway, and I had a little Camry with a moonroof, and we were on the way there, and Tom opened up the roof, and he said, Lord, we're going to ask you under that you would open up your heavens for Mr. Firstel. Anyway, long story short, we get in, and he sits in the dark because he's half blind. He doesn't have vision. And so I walked in, and I said, Tom, you lead, I'll pray. And so Tom begins to share the gospel because he has chided me. We've taken him to church. He went to church one time because he knew I was helping him, and anyway. And so I had talked to him a little bit, and he chided me. He'd make fun of me. And anyway, and I said, you lead. And so anyway, Tom shared the gospel, gave the gospel very plainly. And then he did it again because Mr. Firstel's looking.
3 times. I wanted to make sure John really understood the grace of God. He had a horrible religious experiences growing up, and as a result, didn't want anything to do with God or church or even Christians. But as much as we were assigned to take care of John, we were assigned to take care of John for eternity's purpose.
And so he prayed the prayer. He prayed the sinner's prayer, and it was the sweetest thing. All I could do was weep. And okay, if there's no indoor plumbing, Mr. Firstel's hands were smeared with fecal material, and I'm weeping. Tom's praying, and he's going, Jesus, I invite you in my heart. Oh. And you're going, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Well, we say goodbye. And
But before, at the very end, I really wanted to see, kind of like, John, what's your response to this? And so I asked, John, what do you think about all this? And he said, I thank you and I thank God. He had never done either of those. Oh. He had resisted that. He never said thank you. I wasn't looking for that at all. But I took that as really the genuine, heartfelt position. Yeah. I'm grateful.
So the next day, one of the gals that I had gotten to put the drops in, she said, Cindy, I need for you to come to Mr. Firstel's house. Anyway, long story short, we get there, and it's locked. And I said, something's happened. He wakes up early. He opens up the door. We realize after getting inside the house, he died within 20 minutes of us leaving his home.
No way.
Because he had time to walk to his bed, and he collapsed right there on the floor.
Didn't even make it to his bed.
Oh, my goodness.
So we probably figure about within a half hour.
Less than a half hour.
He was in eternity with the Lord.
My friend John.
You get to see him again, like brand new someday.
What was so interesting?
Wow.
Yeah. A month before that, we actually had family pictures taken on his farm, and they're all in black and white, and they're just and we had a picture of him And so we have a picture. I put it on the Christmas tree now. It's with my Christmas stuff. And he's an emaciated little man, and yet we're going to see him in heaven.
You know, it's fascinating too. I was asked to do the funeral service. Well,
'Cause
really,
I didn't-
it was a graveside.
Yeah.
And so we had a picture up on the casket and
Of our family and him.
and there's probably 40, 45 people there. And in all our time with John, we didn't know if he had anybody but his sister and brother-in-law living next door that knew that he existed. It was a cadre of folks, of believers that had served John throughout his life, that had prayed for John, shared the gospel with John. So we just got to reap what they had sown.
That's amazing.
And we all just simply celebrated. It was
What a
amazing.
privilege. That's all.
I know.
Truly.
Yeah.
That's
Truly.
amazing.
And that's what just but one example of what
story,
God
yeah.
has done in our lives as we've said yes.
What a testament to just being faithful wherever you are with whatever you
Trusting
have.
him with the dirty
Yes.
thing.
As much as we can offer.
And
we
I'm
did.
just
Yeah.
sitting here reminded of like convicted that last night I was irritable when I had to yet take another friend home of my son's. You know, the kids, the people are in our lives like for a
Purpose.
reason. And we have that opportunity. And instead of, like you said, you pulled the phone away and like, instead of like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, you know, like getting irritated that I'm running kids all over the city and
Yet again.
yet
right.
again, every single day. Yeah. Kids that aren't my own, so, you know, much of the time. But what a privilege that is that I get to.
I was talking to someone yesterday and just talking about, we've lived a good life and we're older and I want to be able to give God my best yes. Okay. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I have a card to show you.
Me too, Cindy, me too.
But I want to give God my best yes. So you have to say no. And so that is cool. So I'll tell you another story. There are times in our life that kind of mush together because of whatever. I worked for the school district after my youngest son went to college. I was going to get a job and I called about a part-time job. She said, we don't have part-time work. Well, 24 hours later, she called me back. She said, you won't believe it. Yes, I would. I prayed for it. Anyway, so I worked in special needs preschool. And then the Lord really specifically had me follow a teacher that went to the middle school. And I don't have education training, but I went as a program assistant. Well, what I realized in this ED, emotional and disturbed classroom, I was ED. I realized that my trauma from my youth was something that was real. And then the accident happened. We had an accident. Our whole family was in. And
Yet another accident.
one.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
A year,
my
actually, February 10th of 2008. So we just had an anniversary of that. This one was uneventful.
Wow.
But unlike that.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So anyway, I ended up in an ED classroom, which was really interesting because the Lord really, I was there to help this teacher. And I know that God led me to work with her. And then she left 3 years in. And it was after that we had the accident and it all began to come about in a way. When I got married, I married for love, but I didn't realize how traumatized I was. I became very codependent on Tom. And so when the accident happened and he began to change because he had 7 surgeries in 6 years and ended up in treatment for suicide because of opioid addiction.
Yeah.
And he began to change and I was dealing with ED kids and Uncle Larry. I mean, it was like a show. And
It was a 3-ring circus.
So because your uncle was living with you we talked about this
yeah.
before we were on camera. Okay. At the same time as all of this.
yeah. So I realized that I have equipment and I have resources to add to the ED classroom. And it's like, that was me back then. I just didn't know it. So I was able to give things, which was really cool. But then, Tom, my support, my main guy is like falling apart, grew his hair out, like, who are you?
Trying to bring that afro back.
Right.
No, he had a ponytail. That was worse. And then I was in counseling because I needed marriage counseling. I didn't know you could go without your spouse because I thought, whatever. And then I realized all my trauma and I had to start dealing with it. It was so interesting. And I can say that now and really laugh about it because I go through it all again to be where we are now. But God allows you to go through things so you can be your best self and help others.
Yeah,
I would like to have learned what I've learned without going through all that,
Sure.
just for the record.
That would
Yes.
be easier,
Yeah,
right?
just so you know that, God, like we don't have to go through it anymore.
Because really, we've lived in survival at numerous times of our life. And God has been faithful. And we've talked about, for the last 2 years, I've been talking about being married almost 50 years. That's huge.
That is huge.
And, and it wasn't like it was easy. It was hard. And when he changed and that was awful. It's like, this is not what I signed up for. You are not the same person. And I just remember that covenant. And the Lord had me go. He was doing a project because he really responds really well in hot heat. It's the craziest thing. So when he was still healing, he was doing something in our backyard. And the Lord told me, because we were not speaking, it was awful. And the Lord said, you go with him and you talk to him and you just honor him.
Submit.
And so anyway, and I went all the way there and all the way back. He said, did you have something to say? He said, well, I'm leaving. I cannot put you through any more of this. Well, it was, oh, shoot, this is not what I wanted. And so I had a come to Jesus moment, and I went and got my sketch pad. I'm not an artist, but I got my sketch pad. And the Lord began to show me all the logs I had in my own eyes. There was a lot of chaos going around, but I had my own stuff to deal with. And so that was a good thing. And I ended up spending 3 hours out there looking at the ditch and all the railroad ties and had to repent. And that was after his counselor had talked to him about unconditional acceptance because
Radical
acceptance. It's like, don't be bossing me. You have no idea what this man is to live with. But, God took care of it and cleaned me up. And like I said, I would definitely go through it all again because there was trauma I didn't recognize.
Sure.
I call that 7 years, that stretch is 7 years of insanity, kind of like Nebuchadnezzar went through after he defied the living God. Opioids, and doctors gave them out freely. I had multiple doctors, and none of them collaborated to know who was giving me what. And I took them because I needed them, but then I needed them in a different way eventually. I still have some left over from that. So I got to that point where God brought me to a point where I could learn to tolerate the pain or find healthy ways of resolving the pain and dealing with pain issues. But I was hurting her so much that it hurt me. And for her survival, I thought I needed to leave. Because, like the Jabez prayer, God, help me not be a pain to anybody kind of thing. I was that pain in her everywhere. And I wanted to leave to spare her.
And God didn't let that happen.
And he'd say, what
She
stopped
wouldn't
you?
let that happen.
The counseling.
And he didn't. Yeah.
I started first by myself, and then he joined me. And then we were able to deal with some of the stuff. And I remember at one point he said, why weren't you honest with me? I said, I couldn't be honest with myself. How could I not be? How could I be honest with you? And so there are things that, I don't like conflict. I didn't like it in my home. My dad would blow up. And so, we lived fairly decently for years until we couldn't. And I had to let it all come out.
Let me go way back to the beginning, though. When we first went out, it was fun. We went out for dinner, and she was just telling me about herself, and I would lick my finger and make a mark on the dashboard. Okay, I can sew, I can cook, I can do this, I can do that. And I
Checking
thought,
the boxes.
you win. I don't have a choice, but yeah, it was really interesting. The Lord gave me a perspective into who this girl was and how suppressed she was by whatever I didn't know. And I thought, you are more than what you are. You will be more than what you are. And a lot of tension came as a result of my pressing and probing and prodding and not letting her remain that wallflower. She needed to be and deserved to be everything she is. And the Lord gave me kind of an idea of, when you have that little stick with the rubber band and you've got a little airplane and you release it, that creates tension when that rubber band between your hand and your other hand. And that's what our life was. There's a lot of tension like that, or the kind that you twist and then let loose. Well, she has soared. And it was costly at times, and the Lord kind of does that in our lives anyhow.
He does.
He likes to stretch us, doesn't he?
And he creates tension, so transformation comes about. It's not fun, but it's fun to look back and say, "Wow, thank you."
After the fact, we're
Ouch.
grateful for the refining.
Right.
But in the middle of it, it's painful.
Yeah.
Truly.
It hurts. Yeah.
And I think out of our relationship, I've prayed for my children that God would send them spouses that were fit. I just know that God said, you fit with this man. And we look back and it's an amazing story. But the Lord has allowed me to pray for my daughter-in-laws, and I have two of the best daughter-in-laws in the world. And just for the record, though, I invited them both on their first dates, just so I know.
So you were the one who
Yeah.
set them up. Okay.
Okay. And it's kind of funny because they had women that they had dated before. They were strong-willed women, and our daughter-in-laws are strong-willed. They're lovely, but they're under the guide of the Holy Spirit. And I tell the girls that I prayed the wenches away from their husbands, and they think it's hilarious. But you know what? I wanted better for my children, and you know what? That's always the heartbeat of a parent. I want my children to have it better, and I was going to be better than my parents, and and my story looks different than my parents, and no story is easy. Everybody struggles, and all I know is that God has been so faithful, and He has revealed over and over my heart that wasn't right, and I kept pressing in, and He's allowed me to make it right with Him. And so when I retired in 2020, which was a little yucky time to retire, but I had a vision, and I saw a picture, and I have a friend that does watercolors. And I said, "Would you paint this for me?" And she did, and brought it back, and it was exceedingly abundantly better than I ever could have thought. But it was a picture with a clock and no hands. And the words were, "It's time to soar." And that's my life. That's where I'm living, in that place of soaring. And it happens to have a little dove flying through it. And truly, we are soaring. We're still going. He started a business after the accident. He started 13 years ago. It's our business. We've worked it. We've prayed for it. We have business cards. He has one side. I have the other because I have a calling card. And God has been faithful. And we shouldn't have made it. We should have been a statistic. You know how they say, if you've lost a job, if you've had a baby, move.
Yeah, all these giant life changes. You have all you've done every one of them.
Yeah, I want to point out that I think one of the key turning points in our lives when sort of the dust had settled, even though we were still in the, I'd still had multiple surgeries and a couple surgeries to go and all of that after the car wreck in 2008. we went for counseling, and we started meeting with the group that was studying a passage out of Romans chapter 12. And there's 7 gifts listed in Romans 12 that are what are known as motivational gifts. It's what you are, not so much what you do. It's the way you are. It's how you're designed and wired, so to speak. And as we studied that over 10 years, we recognized the strengths and weaknesses of each of these gifts and what we possess and the way God wired us. So it's really very introspective, but it wasn't intended to be that. It just became that. And once we embraced who each of us are individually, then also, between ourselves, it's like we took off. It's like the gate lifted and we were able to run freely and appreciate fully, the way each person was. She's very, very people oriented, doesn't know a stranger basically. And I tend to be more academically oriented. Not that I've really achieved anything, but just more thought and truth or content centered. That's what my schooling was all about, and we had to win arguments, for God, kind of thing. Yeah, and so rather than building relationships, she's all about relationships, and as a result, she builds relationships for God and with God and brings people into the kingdom that way. So that counseling and the study in Romans 12 really helped us to see how different we were, yet complementary.
Yep.
And so now we can celebrate our differences and allow each other at times to go diverge, not be hand in hand as we walk in life, but take different paths, although maybe parallel train tracks kind of a thing.
Sure.
Yeah. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was really a critical change in our lives and our relationship as well.
And how long ago was that? Just whenever you were going through the counseling and the study, you said it was after your crash. I'm wanting to help people understand that, like, it's never too late.
Oh, no.
Like that. I just want to encourage that. Like, this was later on in your life and in your marriage.
I'll be 72 this month. Was it 5 years ago? Maybe 6 years ago?
Probably 10 or 12.
But you had been married 40.
Somewhere.
Yeah, 40 years.
Yeah. It's never too late.
So it's not.
No.
God can redeem anything.
Well, and he can birth something new.
Whether we have one, who was Abraham, had a kid at what?
Yeah.
100
He was
years?
100.
Yeah.
Sarah was 90.
Yeah.
So, for whatever time we have, that's what I look at as, Lord, for the remainder of the time that I have, I want to be faithful and do what you want me to do. Whether it's a little or a lot.
I was talking to someone, I had a mentoring session the other day, and I was talking about, we had gone on vacation a couple weeks ago, and Tom loves to go to different beaches, and I don't like the water. I love to be in the sun. And anyway, he wanted to go to Coki Beach on the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. And we went, and he said, would you like a chair? Because it was really busy. And he said, how about an umbrella? Yeah, okay. And I just, anyway, so I sat there. But I watched him, and he loves the water. He has fins. He loves the water. He loves swimming with fish. He likes them to touch him. And that's not my jam. And so I sat there, and I watched him, and it was just really fun because I could hear the conversation later on. It was the blah, 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 blah. And so I was telling this gal, and I said, it was so neat. He got to do what he wanted to do. I did it with him because I know how much he likes it. I wanted to go because there wasn't any parking. He said, well, no, let's look here. And he made it happen. He got a parking place. He got me a chair and an umbrella. Anyway, I walked on the beach. I got hit on and ignored it.
What? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, and then when we finished, I was just so excited for him because he did what he wanted to do. I didn't have to do what I wanted to do. I brought a book and I read it and stuff, but I was telling this young woman, and she said, I love hearing that story. And, by the time we've been married, as long as we have our separate lives. We love it. We converge. And yet I know him so well. And if he's happy, I'm happy. And I tell him,
And likewise, when she said, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
and I told him all these years, I'm a low maintenance wife. I'm really not high maintenance. And when we first got married, I didn't have preferences, and that was really frustrating to him. But that takes knowing who you are, and I had to figure out that kind of stuff. And so I know who I am. I tell him my preferences, and it works really well.
It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
and openness
It's
is
beautiful.
really is critical. It's the key to communication's a key to a good marriage. It really is. And it was frustrating. That's where a lot of tension came from growing, in the early years, because she would say she didn't have a druther. I thought she would, but she never would divulge that. And then when I'd make a decision, she might resent it.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and I wouldn't know it. And so
Brokenness
yeah.
is brokenness, and it's like, truly, we had a lot of broken pieces when we got married, and God just had a good sense of humor and said, I can do miracles here.
We'll make it
And he
fit together.
has.
And he has.
And he has.
It's
We're a mosaic now. We have so many broken pieces. God welded them back together, and
we even have a little gold, I'm sure.
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
What's that called?
There's an art form,
Yes,
where
it's
they
beautiful.
they take the broken pieces and they use the gold to mold them back together.
Yeah. So
Beautiful, you guys. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of stuff that you could.
I have one more little story.
Yes, I want to hear it.
okay.
We, I know this gal. Her name is Kristen, and I met her years ago. She was an assistant to a friend of mine who was a teacher. And my friend was invited to their wedding, and she said, would you drive with me? It's someplace 5 hours away. Sure. We drove 5 hours, saw the wedding, ate good food, and drove back. Well, when I started working at ECS, this dear, sweet husband of hers was working with me at Evansville Christian School. And we began to do life a little bit together, and loved this family. Well, her mom was suffering from cancer, and I would meet with her, and she went through some brokenness, and she said, how did I not know? And I said, don't get on yourself. You don't know until you know. And so anyway, but I talked with her, and I said, when you pass, and we knew she was terminal, when you pass, I will embrace your daughter. And so we had a family dinner, and I invited Kristen and her husband and their 2 little cherubs. No, it was only 1 cherub at that time. And they came, and she got ready to leave, and she put her head on my shoulder, and she said, I love your family. And I said, well, we have room. And my sons embraced her, and we have chosen to adopt a family. Well, we have 2 adopted grandsons, and our oldest grandson said, are they going to change their name to Scholl?
Oh, that's
And
sweet.
Mommy said, no, they're going to keep their name, but we're going to love them just like we like our family. Anyway, and so that has been a privilege. And I talk about adopting a family, and they said, did you really adopt? Well, yes, we've said you belong
It's
to
a
ours.
big heart,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and we are grandma and pop to her children. Anyway, it's been really neat in culture when you talk about that, and they're going, well, that was really nice. And it's like, again, when God invites you to embrace, I always wanted another child. And I had an epiphany at the Hills one Sunday. The Lord knew, and we wanted it after leaving California, but it wasn't right because God had her waiting. And so.
Well, Cindy almost died with our second born child. And so there was a high risk factor.
Sure.
That we didn't want to assume that and presume upon God's grace and protection.
Right.
And so he's given her many girls to mentor, and ladies above her, below her, and beside her in all directions. And we've adopted a lot of people into our family. We have a big family now.
That's beautiful, though. That's how God's family is.
I was going to say,
I
what
mean,
a
I'm like, it's a
picture of
reflection.
what God
It
does.
really is.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
We've come to see people more as brothers and sisters, and or moms and dads.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that's beautiful. What a beautiful 50 years together.
Yes.
Exciting.
It's turned out pretty well.
Yeah. 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 And I just love all of it. That's the turns and twists and the things you expect and don't expect. And then God works it all for good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you get to do it together. Like that's the beauty of marriage, you know?
Yeah, and we talk about it. We talk about the fact that we've had 50 years together. A lot of couples don't have 50 years.
Right.
Lord willing, we get more, but
more, yeah.
also very aware of God's timing is His timing, and we want to invest until we're no longer.
I love it.
Yeah.
So if we have anyone listening or watching who is either newlywed or getting married or in the dating scene, what advice would you have for them as they're entering in this new scary season of life?
Unlike us, I would definitely tell somebody to live a yearly cycle. Just because I grew up with bipolar.
If you're in the dating period, or the pre-marriage period, live a year as friends or whatever at least. It worked out well for us. Costly, okay, it did. It was, but that's really wise. Experience 4 seasons.
That's good.
And then also making a covenant. I mean, that's I promise forever. And when you promise, it makes it harder to break it. And it gets really good at the end. I had a mother-in-law, and actually have her ring on. Her marriage was hard. She was married for 70 years, and the first 49 were awful. That's just life happens. And she was a wonderful mentor. She was a kindred. She knew me. She got me. She loved me, and I loved her son. So it was really a good relationship. But when you put those good, solid foundations in, because it's not if you go through hard times.
Yes, ma'am.
The dry times, the rains, the drought, you have something to fall back on. And I can remember there was times I promised, doggone it, I promised, and it helps. And and our children have watched us, and there's something really neat about leaving a legacy that we could have bailed. A lot of people bail. And but what we're giving to our children and our grandchildren is something that's priceless. So
Yes, you are.
It's beautiful.
yeah.
I would also add, embrace your differences. Don't argue about them, and allow one another to be fully who God's designed them to be, and allow them to experiment on how that manifests itself outward as well as toward one another. Because once you know your design, basically again out of Romans chapter 12, you see what your wiring and your tendencies, your bent, if you will. And Proverbs talks about train up a child in a way which he'll go, and that the whole idea behind that is an arrow. If it has a bent to it, you learn which way that arrow is going to fly. So you aim accordingly. And that's with the kids, and that's with your spouse as well. They have a bent. They're going to lean one way or another. Embrace that. Don't see it as a competition or a conflict, but just see it as a compliment. And it enriches your life. We have become so rich in our lives, even in our poorest financial times when we were destitute. I should have been on Medicaid, but we didn't know enough to go on Medicaid. The ravens would bring us food, kind of that thing. So just embrace one another's differences as well as obviously the things are the same as well.
That's something that God convicted me of just a few years ago. I was praying for my husband, and it was more of like, are you praying for who you want him to be or who I want him to be? And it's like, oh, okay, you're right. I will pray for who you want him to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then conform my heart to that.
That's really interesting. This is sort of an aside. I believe it was the philosopher Blaise Pascal that made a comment and said that God created man in his own image, and then man returned the favor. And we tend to want God to be the way we are, not we want to be the way God is. And we sometimes will bring that into our marriage relationship. I want you to be like me. Well, that's not what we were designed. It's not God's plan for marriage. Is be who you are fully and allow one another to be that.
Yeah.
And celebrate it.
And I think when you know who you are, it's so much easier to let him be who he is. When we figured out it's like, oh my gosh, that's why he's the way he is. And it was so funny. And again, I set out in life to have a perfect marriage because my parents' marriage was yucky. Well, there isn't such an animal.
There is. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. Anyway, and I'm sure God winks and laughs and just, I got you, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both for sharing today.
Yes, thank you.
Our pleasure.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Just all kinds of cool stuff that God has done. And what an example.
Absolutely.
My husband and I will be married 20 years this year.
Good
And
for
it
you.
seems like sometimes it seems like a super long time and sometimes it feels like it's not. But wow, 50 years. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I want to do that too.
And thank you guys for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed Tom and Cindy's stories because I know that we did. And just remember, if you make a promise, don't forget it and don't quit. Until next time, grab a shield. We'll see you out there.
Bye, guys.